are going into time pressure territory. Officially a blitz game right now for Pragg.
Officially blitz, under 5 minutes. He does push c4. He's getting closer to the increment. But this is so imbalanced. Magnus frowning. He missed this move. It was such an obvious one. Should have been on his radar.
He's banking on the bishop to c6, stepping back y1 square, attacking the knight, attacking the pawn on g2.
Then he loses on the spot. Knight d8, and it's mate. Rook takes f7.
Whoa!
Whoa.
Knight takes c6. Magnus has no good squares.
Oh my gosh, and a bishop d7, you can even sacrifice your exchange and go in with a rook to f7.
Wow.
And that is one-way traffic. There gives back the material Pragg, but can never lose.
Never. The c-pawn moving forward, e6 incredibly weak, and Magnus realizes it.
Yeah, not only has he blundered, or almost blundered, but he hasn't spotted that the only move now, bishop a4. Otherwise, it's over almost. Otherwise, he's just lost Magnus Carlsen. Bishop a4, only move. The idea is to try and drag the white knight back, and then he'll fall back to c6 when there's no knight to d8 idea.
Clever, but that's not an easy spot. Magnus had bishop c6 in mind all the way through. I would bet that he missed knight to d8.
Yeah, for sure.
It's so easy to miss as well, because you think, well, the knight will just go back, but instead it just goes forward, and Magnus, he still hasn't made a move.
On the
Hasn't
board.
quite realized that only one move is sufficient.
He needs to find the move. He's lost on the spot if he doesn't play bishop to a4. But it's starting to look quite dangerous with the c-pawn. Anyway, moving forward, Magnus reaching out. He does process of elimination.
Yeah, he looked at all the possible moves there. He found out that they were all losing other than this one. That's often the simplest way to calculate. You look for forcing moves, but you look for things just to survive there. Magnus was kind of shaking his head, it looked like, looking away for a moment. But he still has more time on the clock. He's still not out of this game yet. Still just 2 moves away. Move the knight, bring the rook in from getting a decent chance.
And he is threatening knight to e3 as well. So let's not forget about not only the 2 rooks, but the pawn on c2 tender.
That's a huge threat, actually. And how to deal with it. One of the white rooks surely has to move. But where? Elimination technique. Who's going to be eliminated from this classical game? Rook to d8, pin. How effective would that be? Stopping the black rook. That poor black rook just wants to get in the game, just wants to move once, but isn't allowed to.
Pragg is just making sure that doesn't happen, but I'm looking at those rook left ideas that you had mentioned earlier, trying to get the rook into the game, but also tactics, right? Knight e3, maybe you start with bishop takes pawn. Actually, David, bishop takes pawn, comes in with a check. Whoa, Magnus just did a lean back like he just saw something incredible for himself.
Wow, bishop takes pawn, as you say, Tanya.
And knight e3 check.
Oh, hitting the rook. White's king would not be able to take that bishop, or would it? If it doesn't take that bishop, the bishop's coming back round, hitting the defender of White's rook. Hitting some pawns. That's a very forcing line.
But you need to calculate so deeply there, because once you take that bishop, it's going to hinge on whether black can prevent the advance of the c-pawn. If you can't do that, you can't touch this line.
I think he's calculated. I think he's reaching for the edge of the board. It's the bishop, but he falls back with the bishop. He's hitting the knight, he's hitting the pawn.
And Pragg's about to move his rook from d8, but the best move was actually to not touch that rook, to not defend the knight, to bring the other rook to d1, getting ready to deliver a check, and to pick up pieces if the knight were captured. That would have been difficult with no time, Pragg now.
And it's more important for Pragg to prioritize the clock than find the best move in the position. So rook b8, understandable, especially because it was played fast. But this gives Magnus the opportunity to grab the g2 pawn. Even reroute his knight, but just pick up a pawn. Why not? Hit the white rook. And Pragg's got to move in with a tempo. Either place it on d1, the open line, or start chasing the bishop.
Yeah, and current material count for everyone at home, it's the exchange down for black, it's knight for rook, but Magnus has 2 pawns in return, so it's actually level on material for the first time in a long time. 4 versus 1 on the king side in terms of pawns. G5 is going to be a huge idea in the near future. H4, H3, H2, boom.
Oof.
And just like that, the risk has gone up, but I'm expecting the rook to move itself to the center, take control of the open line. But this position is still fraught with danger.
It really is, and I have a feeling this could very well become a race. You know, you pointed out that H-pawn 4 moves away from becoming a queen. The C-pawn, you want to start moving up the board as quickly as possible. He does start chasing the bishop, Pragg does, as he looks up to see the move counter there. Move 34 it is, Pragg, 6 more to go.
Here we go. see pawn about to start motoring forward. That was actually the only way for Pragg to keep the advantage. Anything else, Black would have been better. If he hadn't gained this valuable tempo against the Black bishop, Black would have started the race one move early. Black would have got that head start. Magnus doesn't get it now. He has to find another safe square for his bishop. This bishop's been kicked around a lot. No stable squares yet. Black's rook yet to move as well.
And that bishop is such a key piece, right? Because it's also stopping that power pawn that's about to move forward for Pragg. C6 square under control. So you can just look at ideas of the storm that you were talking about on the right side. G5, push that H pawn, nothing stopping it. I can feel the pressure on Pragg from here. I agree. Starts looking more dangerous for white.
I think everyone can feel the pressure on Pragg and Magnus. Bishop steps back and the race has to begin.
Yeah, we're one floor away from the players, but I can almost feel Pragg shaking, that chair shaking, understandably. Like, he's been so close to victory, almost a knockout on Magnus's king earlier, now an endgame. Totally different nature, but still better, Pragg. Can he convert? That's the big question.
Also, because the risk is so high, I'm wondering whether Pragg will just kind of pull the brakes and start trying to harass this bishop. Repeat the position as much as possible.
Oh, that's a very good point, Ivanka. Like rook f1, rook g3, just keep eternally chasing that piece. And maybe we'll see like rook f1, bishop g2, rook g1, bishop f3, repetition. At least get closer to getting some increment. 6 moves away now. He's only got 2 minutes left, Pragg. Big decisions. Rook g3 played.
He's chasing the bishop. Where do you move?
Again, the bishop has to be ever so careful, right? You can't just rocket back to c6 because it will get chased away again by a knight. And blue arrow appears, only one move.
Only way to keep the game going. You want to get back with your knight, defend that bishop.
Yeah, second best move apparently is bishop to h1, which makes some sense here, keeping it on the long diagonal, but it's always such an awkward square. I don't think Magnus wants to do that. So understandable and logical if he plants this knight back in the center. Multi-purpose, the knight is just such a beast in the center of the board, but it does feel like it stops Black's plan of g5.
He's reaching for it.
Yeah, he's going to play it though.
Of course, it's Magnus Carlsen in an endgame. This is what he does, and he does it best.
And Pragg just inching closer to the move 40 and whoa!
For the first time in the game, it's Magnus Carlsen on the advantage. The bar goes down, g5, and Magnus will play for a win.
Wow, g5 is such a clever move here. If the pawn captures on g5, h takes g5, Black gets a huge pass pawn. But the trick is, if the rook takes on g5, Black drops the knight back to d7, hits the rook on b8, and the bishop is going to win the knight on b7. Can't do that now because the bishop is hanging on f3. So you lure away the white rook first. This is difficult. What do we think? Is he going to find it? g5 looks like an invisible move.
He finds it!
Wow. Magnus turning on the magic. Madness from Magnus.
Magnus doing Magnus things again. Look at him work that magic. What a move.
And he does it over and over again. He's not only squeezing positions in an endgame out of nowhere with no advantage, even in lost endgames, the guy knows how to turn this around. He knows how to shift gears and he knows how to snatch victory from the jaws of almost a dead lost position here. Now Magnus Carlsen will grind this on. The psychological shift that happens right now for Pragg to deal with that. The deflection tactic here that David pointed out. Rook takes pawn, you lose a piece. Magnus just full board awareness.
Wow.
Completely.
Pragg has average of 20 seconds per move to the time control, brings his knight back. That's a huge mistake. He had to take that pawn, h takes g5, and just cling on, put his rook in front of the pawn, blockade. But now Magnus locks in the white rook. We talked about the black rook on h8. That white rook on g3 is toast. It's gone, it's trapped. Black's going to later push the f-pawn, and there's going to be an avalanche. Magnus is in the driver's seat now. Magnus is on the brink of winning his first game of the event. First classical game.
Driver's seat and cruising on how now. Magnus, with the ease with which he played g4, he knows it. Magnus knows this is a winning position. You look at him on the screen, he's locked in. And as he fills in the score sheet for Pragnananda, a dead lost position from being the guy dominating the game from the start.
And for Pragg, what a shock. What a loss of control. You know, so close to beating the world #1. And now it's all gone wrong.
Gives a check. He's about to follow the king. Where are you going? If you go back, Pragg can go back to d6, pinning the knight.
Do you go back? Do you go forward? Is there even a bad square for Magnus right now? One thing I will say, Magnus does love allowing discovered checks, so I wouldn't be shocked if he plays a move like king to d8, but it does feel much more natural to want to go forward. The question is whether white can start repeating, putting pressure on that black knight on e8. Pragg has 34 seconds to make 2 more moves.
And it's also his mind right now, right? He knows that this is all gone from his hands. And he knows that this is close to over now. From having such an in-control advantage in the middle game, in the end game, how do you shift that mindset of going on to defense?
It's not easy to suddenly make that shift, but I think Pragg is desperately trying to repeat the position as much as he can, get to move 40, get that extra time. He knows it's all gone wrong, but for Magnus, he's so used to making that shift from defending, from unraveling to suddenly in control.
And exchange, what exchange? White was up a rook for a minor piece earlier, but white's rook is way worse than any minor piece now on g3. So if Magnus can dodge the checks and avoid a repetition, it's pretty much over, one-way traffic. White's c-pawn can never advance past the barricade on c6. White's bishop on a2 is dead. This is, this is maybe the last critical moment for Magnus to try and find something.
He runs with the king.
And he comes back using the pin on the last rank. Pragg's final hope is Magnus Carlsen's non-moved rook on h8. He's attacking the knight, hoping that Magnus will retreat with the king. And then he can give a check again.
Yep.
Move 39. I don't think that Magnus is even going to give Pragg that pleasure of repeating moves. I think the bishop is just going to take that step back and defend its knight.
Yeah, the bishop can defend the knight. I have a feeling Magnus really wants to play knight takes d6.
Ooh.
I mean, he's looked at those similar tactics before. There were ideas of giving up the rook on h8 in other variations earlier. Apparently it's not a great move here, but that would be typical Magnus. Sacrifice, bring the knight in, start pushing the pawn.
We also spoke about how Magnus goes for beauty prize, right?
Exactly.
And it really does feel like it would be up his alley. And what rook? That rook hasn't made a single move. So I'm with you, David. Won't be surprised if we see knight takes knight and then the knight jumping forward, targeting the white rook on g3 from e4.
Yeah, one of these squares, e4, f5. It's so unnecessary, but it's Magnus. It's typical Magnus. Yes, he can go back. Maybe at this point it would be practical.
He does it.
He goes for knight takes d6. He goes in with knight to e4. Some of the advantage is gone, but he's still better, Magnus, and white's really on the defensive now. It's all about the passed pawns. That rook has to retreat, save itself.
It's going to be about the g-pawn. He's going to give a check. He's going to start chasing that rook from the g-file, coming into e2, and g3, g2, g1. Does the job.
Hey, still a winning advantage. Or is it king b2, only good square? There we go. Doesn't walk into a fork. Magnus goes in.
And he's going to start pushing the pawn, slowly but surely.
2 exchanges down, Magnus Carlsen, but with an advantage.
But still the complications, though, continue, because you mustn't forget that white also has a passed pawn. At the minute, it's just heavily guarded, but it's there. With rook f1, you can't move that knight away from e5.
And neither can you push the g-pawn easily anymore. So Magnus has to still take a pause and find a way to keep moving that pawn forward. White pawn's coming up.
Yeah, this is fascinating. Magnus, I did say it was unnecessary, and I still love his decision because it's fun for us as commentators, but in practical terms, his path to an advantage much more narrow now.
Ooh, did you see that?
Yeah,
Magnus just... Whoa, he got g3, but this...
Magnus!
Oh my
Magnus
goodness!
is allowed
And
c6.
Pragg misses it. Pragg could have just played rook to g8, covered the g-file. Magnus now needs to push his pawn. It's a massive pawn race. Missed opportunity from Pragg. Magnus went from better to losing in one move. Pragg missed it.
He just rushed it. He had no time on the clock. With the 10-second increment, he didn't take a pause. Rook to g8 would have been winning for Pragnananda. Now after g2, it gets completely wild. Pragg's about to give up his rook. We're going to see queens on the board for both players.
Wow, this is so similar to Magnus against Gukesh from last year, where Magnus suddenly lost control and things turned around with pass pawns running up and down the board. G2 only move. Otherwise, it's over. Magnus drops back his king.
And that's a blunder. That's it. You can push the pawn. Just queen just queen the pawn, Pragnananda.
Wow.
That's it. C7 game over.
C7, Magnus can pretty much resign. What has just happened? We've just seen total self-destruction from the world number one. A new queen is about to be born.
And Pragg knows it. He comes back with
But
the bishop.
the rook is going to come.
Now the white rook just needs to find any safe square. The black pawn's going nowhere. The white pawn is a queen. Magnus Carlsen
He resigns! Wow! What a game with so many twists and turns. Pragg wins. What a roller coaster of a game.